There is no other way for me to save this without using illicit services. So I'm just gonna scroll through the whole thing. This is one of the best books that I've ever read. And by that I do mean um, it has racism and sexism which does not serve the plot or the world building in any way or develop the characters in any way. The women are homemakers who aren't allowed to have any other jobs. The racism is against two different races of people who are both dark skinned, one of whom is coarse haired. Um, there are mushroom people, so it's not as though the racism is based on specifically skin color, because there are fantastical creatures like giants and mushroom people. The book itself I don't find particularly appealing. I think it's commendable for a person to write a book, but there are a lot of problematic things in the book itself. Um, and my personal opinion is that it is emblematic of the author and their views as a whole. Not that I'm claiming that they hold the racism or the sexism that is in the book as their own values, but I think to write them in this way, where there's just no reason for them to actually be in the story, is an incredibly strange choice. And then to have, I think she was a 13-year-old girl to get, and there was only one bed troped with like a 40-year-old man, and then they sleep in the same bed, and then they sleep in the same bed for like 3 years after that, is definitely, it's an entire choice. Um, it's an entire choice, that is for sure. Um, yeah, I'm certifiably a hater of specifically the creator at this point. I think that the way that they conduct their business is pretty reprehensible to me. I don't like the victim complex that they have created, based on a lot of things that are their own responsibility. I don't think in any way that Ryan or the legal team is faultless. I'm I would be very surprised if they weren't at fault for the way that they handled the Epic situation. Or not the Epic situation, the Epic video game situation. Um, but yeah, the video he made just was really uh, just like lacking both critical thinking and professionalism in the way that it was presented. There was not a single time that he accepted any responsibility for the lot that he ended up with as a result of the contract falling through. Um, he wanted to draw a line that he wasn't willing to start any work until a contract was made, but he was willing to spend his last few $1,000s to set up a studio, which seems like an insane investment if you're deciding, oh, okay, I'm not going to overcommit myself by actually doing any work here. And then at the same time, he was getting money from his patrons, built entirely on the promise. Like his Patreon was started and repeated over and over again that patrons would have early access to all of the game stuff that was going on, early access to builds of the game, and there was not a single time an update about the state of the game for his patrons. Like, he could have said, hey guys, it's taking a really long time. I'm not getting feedback that the contract is going through. They keep telling me it's going to be soon. And he could have said, I don't feel comfortable promising that this is a Patreon reward if this isn't happening. So until that happens, I'm gonna take that off the rewards for Patreon, which did not happen. Um, and so he basically extracted money from. It's harsh to say, but I would describe them as gullible fans who were excited about the Epic IP and excited about the idea of a video game being made. Um, and I think that that's really scummy and really shady. And that is a thing that is ignored by his very fervent fan base, which has now been expanded by what I would describe as a bad faith description of the situation. And then, he says he doesn't want any beef, but then he makes videos like saying that, oh, as I understand, or I understand that the Epic staff is banning people for talking about this situation, which is not the case. They asked people to not talk about it because the server has always been a drama-free place in terms of allowing drama to be discussed, especially of that scope. And no one was banned or like given a hard time. The conversation was just redirected as things always are, whether it's politics um, or otherwise when things come up and the staff becomes aware of it. So he then makes a video to his very like um, he creates this victim complex persona and then builds a larger following off of it, and then creates videos to them painting himself even further as the victim, the little guy being picked on by this, as he keeps describing it, as Epic and as Jorge specifically. And yeah, it just really rubs me the wrong way. I've always been a bit of a skeptic about Epic personally. Not like I love the content. I've been around the community for a long time, but he since he first came in to the server, and I was in voice calls with him, and it was very clear that he was seeking attention, and I was very critical of the way that he was going about it, and the fact that he hadn't made any proof of concept, but he wanted a contract, he wanted channels in the server. Um, he was very much trying to platform himself off of a thing that he had no evidence to suggest. And then, he loved to say, "Oh, I've already made a game. My original game is on Steam." Um, and I've played that game, and I've left a very honest review on that game. And while I think that there are some redeeming parts about the artwork and the style, the game itself it's very it's not fun. It's very short. I don't think that the story is practically non-existent, and it's cryptic. Like by short, I mean like the first time I played it, I finished it in 15 minutes trying to figure out the controls, and then the second time I played it in 10 minutes. Um, and yeah, it's just not fun. It was not a good uh, example of his skill, and it's okay to like he doesn't need to make an amazing thing to prove like, oh my gosh, yes, this is the guy to make the epic video game. But there just like wasn't evidence to back up the fact that he was actually capable of making something, or that he was making a thing. There needed to be some proof of concept, and he was unwilling to do any sort of proof of concept um, before getting a contract. And then speculation on my part is that part of why he didn't get a contract is because he had nothing to show for it. He was just trying to platform himself, get money through patrons, and become a content creator, get the attention from the Epic community without actually doing any of the work. Um, he clearly has put in work as a content creator, but I don't think that in any way he has earned the Epic video game guy moniker. Um, so I don't think it's right that he has platformed himself on that, and um, yeah, that's my strong opinion. I've also tangentially heard from people that I know who have interacted with him closely for a long time that they don't think he's a very good person. And while I don't have very many interactions that I've ever had with him, and it's not fair for me to say that I have a an informed opinion on that. I It does reinforce what I have perceived of him based on his public persona, and I do trust these people to some extent. So it just all kind of builds into this really unfortunate situation where I think a lot of people, as was the case in the Epic community, are really willing to give him the benefit of the doubt and give him their money without just being a little bit skeptical, um, which is all I really want people to do. If they still want to support him after like looking into his behavior and like thinking about it at all, that's 100% their decision. And I have a lot of bias about people not supporting him because I don't like people coming into a community and making promises and then not following through on them after extracting a bunch of money from the people that they made promises to. Like the Patreon is really the line that he crosses. Like if there was no Patreon, cool. Like do your thing, be a content creator. Um, but he like even when he first made the Patreon and for a long time, the tiers and the rewards for those tiers were literal copy pastes of Jorge's Patreon. Like what? The subtlety is non-existent. Um, and I know different people read books differently, and I've always been a very critical person about books that I read, because I'm kind of a hater. I love fantasy and I love um, finding things that I really enjoy, and I am a self-professed hater. I know, I don't love hating things. I don't like to hate things, but I know that that is just one of the things about the way that I consume media. And I do not like this book. I think that people who read this book critically will probably form a similar opinion, specifically about a lot of the problematic things with the racism and the sexism, which there's a disclaimer at the very top, like, oh, the views expressed in this book about these things are not views shared by the author. But they didn't even need to be in there any at all. Number one, they didn't need to be in there because they don't serve the narrative, they don't build the characters, and they don't build the world. Number two, the actual sexism and racism are just literal cuts from the real world. Like, we don't need the racism to be against people of color who are black or brown, who have coarse hair. That it does not need to be that. We don't need the sexism to be, oh, women. Oh, this is actually this is actually the part. Power rests where it really belongs in the hands of the men. Like but there's just no there's no reason. Like it just read the book for yourself. Read the 379 pages of this book. Form your own opinion. Um, I was willing to read this entire book last year, and I'm a slow reader. So, so clearly, I was fueled by a sense of righteousness of like this man needs to be deplatformed. Um, and the way that he's inappropriate with okay, I don't need to, but it's yeah, I, I if anyone ever sees this video, it's the only way that I can save this, and the only way that I can get through scrolling through this entire thing even quickly is by talking about all of my feelings about this whole situation. Anyways, also if you see the Project 2025 thing at the bookmark on my bookmark bar, that is because I was trying to explain to somebody why supporting Donald Trump in 2025 is like pretty unacceptable. And that a lot of what he has done is stuff that he promised. But I wouldn't go as far. I am on record saying that I think Liam Davidson, and I said it last year, is the Logan Paul of the Epic community. I would not go so far as to say he is the Donald Trump of the Epic community. Which I suppose is a point in his favor. Um, but yeah, this is my documenting the whole book so that I can talk about the book in his server without risk of the book then getting removed from the internet and scrubbed from the internet. Okay, my apologies. I misrepresented the book. The last 29 pages are the glossary and pronunciation guide, which I did read, but are not requirements for understanding the book. Unless you, yeah, just hate yourself, I guess. Which I think at the time that I read this was a fact that was probably true about myself. So. Alright, there it is.